Marleya, do you know what I adore about Romarin et Cabot?
The Feline Welcoming Committee?
Exactly. And the folks running the place are just good and knowledgeable people. They've got everything from crystals, incense, herbs, candles, and so much more.
And books. Awesome books.
Oh, so many good books.
That's why Romarin et Cabot is Oxford, Alabama's mom and pop metaphysical bookshop.
And for our listeners, you can find them on social media, or better yet, visit them in person.
We've got a link in our episode notes, and you can visit their shop in Oxford, Alabama. Check them out, y'all. If you're looking for a clean, sober, professional, academic,
well-researched, historically accurate, generally accurate, serious podcast
on Southern folklore, ghosts, bizarre events, and unique people,
this podcast is not for you.
However, if you've decided you can live with that,
then join us for The Strange South.
Ocean anywhere around here.
Where's my coconuts?
Take a Mediterranean.
Show you your coconuts.
I got your coconuts.
Wait, those are
Cheers.
kiwis. They ain't no coconuts. Those are kiwis.
Mine are coconuts.
No, I literally have kiwis here.
I know.
That's the joke. Just for the audience, if we're going to say hello.
Hello.
Hi, Marleya.
Hi, Patrice. Hi, Courtney.
Hey, Courtney.
Hi, y'all. I got kiwis.
Tell us why you got
got
kiwis
coconuts.
today.
Well, since we're talking about the tropics and all things fruity and fun, and it is Pride Month. Happy Pride.
Happy Pride.
We're back, even though,
Yay.
wow, we haven't been here
It's
probably
been
in a
month.
month.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah,
Lots have happened.
traveled.
Lots of travel.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to do a Pride drink. It's really, really pretty. It's a Pride sangria. It's very easy, basically. Pick your favorite white wine. Call for Moscato. I put Pinot Grigio. I'm not a huge Moscato fan, but I think I probably should have stuck with it. But it does have some simple syrup and lime juice and triple sec in it. I did not have Cointreau.
You use triple sec?
I use triple sec,
Jeez.
but not the bad kind.
The bag.
I know it's probably all the same. And then, so it's filled with different fruits like a rainbow. You can see the post with the pictures, but strawberries, mangoes, kiwis, blueberries.
And
Yum.
yum.
It's good.
Delicious.
Mm-hmm.
Cheers. Slanja. Happy Pride.
Cheers.
Happy
Happy Pride. Did you want to share anything about your trip? You want to save that for B-side? How do you want to?
Yeah, maybe B-side. It was great. I had a fantastic time in both Scotland and Ireland. I definitely want to go back and explore more. We did a lot more driving than I anticipated to get between places. It was fun to drive on the wrong side of the road and no accidents. We didn't scrape or scrap. I did turn in front of one car one time.
Did you get honked at?
They threw their hands up at me and I was just like, sorry, because I'm turning right into traffic coming from the left. It didn't look left.
So I wonder what like a Scottish like curse would be kind of like, besides like fuck you.
I don't know. I didn't
Fuck off.
know
Poke
what. Yeah,
Malone.
feck.
Thick.
They everybody was very. One thing I learned, in especially Ireland, well, in both places, people waited on people to turn and stuff. Like there were, I think only once did I hear anyone blow their horn.
Oh.
But the last day I ended up accidentally driving through the middle of Dublin city center.
Oh wow.
Yes, it was not intentional. We were trying to find a place to park, and it was trams and bicycles and trains and buses and people on
All the
scooters and
things that
Uber
I
Eats and
would
people
love
walking.
for us to have. Yeah.
And so I was in the main busiest part, and but I made it through. I did not
Awesome.
hit anyone.
Did you have
But
to
that
do
was a little stressful. I had to get honked at a couple
UE?
of times. I had to. We went to a parking deck and it was literally closed at 7:30. We drove up to it and the doors were down.
Oh.
So I had to back down an alley full of seagulls.
That's not the word I thought you were supposed
I
to
didn't
say.
think so either.
First off, there's seagulls everywhere in both countries. I've not seen so many ginormous seagulls in my life. And everybody, if you don't know how I feel about seagulls, I have a strong dislike of seagulls. They shit all over everything.
And the people who feed them.
The people who feed them, don't even get me started. But it was literally full of seagulls and cars jammed together. And we tried to go in and they were like, oh, this parking, what do they call it? This car park closes I was like, they just like roll up the doors for real, like just close it.
Oh, okay.
So that was the main adventure in Dublin.
Oh,
it wasn't that fun.
Did you hit any seagulls?
I was trying not to, and Candace said, I thought you hated them. Just run over them. And I was like, I don't want to damage the car. They're giant, and we're in a tiny car.
yeah, birds will fuck up your car.
So I didn't hit any.
Good for you.
I got out of there. It was a stressful situation.
Yeah.
All her talk about wanting to drive.
Oh, yeah.
And get a manual. She quickly said that was probably best that we did not. And then when we were in Dublin, I said, okay, I've driven through all that. Do you want to drive us out? And she goes, not really. But I will. I was like, all right, I'll do it. Because we found an open car park. And then they were going to close too. They just close it. I guess they just shut you in. I don't know what they do.
Well, they do it in Atlanta. They'll just shut you in. Not like I've been in car parks
at like
car
9
parks in Atlanta.
Have you?
It depends on what part of the
up.
town you're in.
Yeah.
But some of them are like they have a couple of guest spaces, but most of it is for residents or something like that. And so it's their part of their contract that they shut the doors at a certain time. But if you don't and you have to go and you have to call the number to get the people to come to let you out of the car.
No. This was just public parking that closed at 8 p.m. Everything.
Wow. Well, I was going to say, didn't you say everything closes at 8 p.m.?
Yeah, that's another story for another day. But yes, they eat very early there, even though the sun's up till like midnight.
It's insane. It's insane.
So yes.
Well, good
Adventures
job.
in Ireland.
You had adventures.
Mm-hmm.
Yay.
I'll tell a few more about dancing with some British Army soldiers later.
Ooh. I've not heard about that.
Sounds good. Yeah, what else has it been a month? I was in DC. Had I done that yet?
No, you went to DC.
I went to DC and took my kid, and that was cool. I have no great stories. I was just reminded of the stuff that I already knew that I liked, the FDR monument's always going to be my favorite monument in all of Washington DC probably. And it was cool to take them on the train, and we met up with my best friend from from high school, Jessica, and her son Alex, and went and did a haunted tour of Alexandria, Virginia with them, which was pretty cool. There were some pretty interesting stories off of that.
Awesome.
Yeah, they took us into a tunnel that went underneath a road that used to be a railway tunnel in Alexandria.
Oh, awesome.
And they said one of the groups that they had taken down there in recent months had shown them a picture afterwards of some creature climbing the walls.
What?
Oh my God.
And I was like, what? And she was like, it's like a dog, but not like a dog. And it's obviously climbing the walls.
Is it a hellhound from my story in the past?
Maybe.
Oh my God.
I really wanted to, I was like, do you have this photo? And
Right?
of course she did not. But
Wow.
she did say, there was also somebody who had said she and somebody else who was on the tour once had seen just out of nowhere a fire start at the opposite end of the tunnel.
What?
And as we were leaving, after she'd told us all these stories, we turned around and Randy and I both saw a flash of light at the other side of the tunnel.
What?
And it was there's something that catches the light down there, because of course, who I am. I'm not oh my God, I saw the fire. I'm hey, look, shiny.
My brain would be oh, we are going to die in this tunnel. It's going to be a gas leak and we're going to be in it.
Well, one of the really fun things about that tour was an architectural thing, because all of the ghost tours, they tend to do kind of history of the, all that kind of stuff. They weave it all together.
Thing, yeah.
And one of the things that was really funny was the number of revenge houses that are in towns like Alexandria.
What's a revenge house?
So if in one of the cases, we went to this church and we were in the churchyard. The churchyard was supposed to be haunted. There were supposed to be orbs and things like that. And they were take pictures here and maybe you'll see orbs. So we did that. And we turned around and right at the back end of this churchyard with the graveyard right there in it. I mean, it was very small. There was this other church that had a building built up right at the end of it. I'm sure Randy's going to pop in and correct all this. Usually I get these facts wrong. But what it was another church had built right on their basically right at the edge of their property. They had kind of ruined their views, had been right up there.
That guy in San Francisco who the rich guy who was trying to buy up the full block and one guy didn't sell, so he built literally like this 4-story fence.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he's surrounded. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like that. But instead of like, so they were pissed off at this other church for like kind of encroaching on their view and their area and territory. So
Christian.
they used the last of their property line to build a building that went straight up the side with like maybe like 3 inches of clearance between the back of this new building they were building and the other church that had built at the edge of their property. So they covered up like the majority of the stained glass windows that were in this other church. They covered them up with this other building that they built for really no reason other than just to piss them off.
To be assholes.
But there were other ones too. She pointed out several, and there was one that, I mean, it was like at this little teeny house in between houses that was maybe like, I don't know, like maybe 5 feet wide. And just goes all the way up, but it's just like, fuck you guys, this is my property, you can't use my alley anymore, so I'm gonna build a structure here. It's crazy.
Oh, it's giving me some ideas.
But they like, and some of them are Airbnbs. There were 2 of them in Alexandria, she said, that were Airbnbs that you could actually rent the revenge houses and stay in them. But they're like the size of, you know, a hallway in 3 stories.
I like this term.
Okay, this is Randy breaking in again. I promise I'm not going to make a habit out of this, but Marleya told me to, and I always do what I'm told. Congratulations to Marleya. She got most of the facts of the stories correct. The one thing she missed is the phrase that they used for this. It's not a revenge house, but it's a spite house. That's just going to help you when you go to Google this and see the structure that she is talking about. All right. Back to the podcast.
So, yeah.
No, I like revenge house. I do not like revenge churches. Because
No, revenge church is a little extreme. And
That's
again,
a
I
little
may be
extreme.
slandering this church, but I'm pretty sure I've got the main portions of this right. I don't know. This is why I'd lie for a living.
that's why these are tall tales.
So yeah, fun stuff we've been up to.
You
That
liked
was
the
cool.
tour though?
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun. It was I think it was the company was US Ghost Tours, I think. And our guide was very, very sweet, and we enjoyed. She had a lot of information. She was chitty chatty.
Mhm.
She was chitty chatty.
Chi bang bang.
She's friendly. We liked her. So yeah, it was good. And we bought these little tiny plush stuffed ghosts for the kids. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, good stuff. So yeah, hope you guys out there in the internet land have been having a good summer so far
Summer
too.
vacation time.
And if you're having to work and stare at walls and not see the sunlight, then I hope you have a good vacation.
Yes.
I know how it is to like stare at gray cubicle walls day in, day out, while everybody's like posting on Instagram about their fabulous travel and vacation and be mad and wanting to build revenge houses
Oh no.
in their faces because I had to work my 9-to-5 job.
No.
Social media revenge houses.
How do you do that?
I don't know. I'm not a hacker though.
How do
I
you
think
plot? Yeah.
firewalls maybe. I don't know. That's just taking the metaphor
all-
a little too far.
Dark web stuff that we don't know about.
I don't know it. I don't like it. Have we got any other news? Any other updates?
I don't think so.
Okay, let's take a pause and we'll be right back. Do you want more Strange South every week? We can help. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and you can join our Facebook fan group, Fans of the Strange South Podcast, to keep the chat going with our whole creepy community. Do you have a story idea for us, or a story of your own to share? Email us at stories@thestrangesouth.com. Plus, if you join our Patreon, you not only help support the podcast, you get free swag, extras, exclusives, and a discount on merch. You can find links to all these things on our website, thestrangesouth.com, along with photos, links, and show notes from every episode, Strange South t-shirts, mugs, stickers, and other goodies. See you there.
I am having hot flashes. Because I'm old. I'm having hot flashes. So fuck y'all.
All right.
Oh my God. God, and we're back.
Yeah, man, we're going.
We're back.
We're going for it.
We're
Just
going
doing
for
it.
it.
Yeah, it's not like I don't know.
What, the
That-
energy level?
Yeah, the energy. It's
I
because the
think the
storm brought the
storm-
heaviness in on us.
Well, I mean, I'm sorry, y'all, but y'all have done a fuck ton of shit
Mm.
this past month. So y'all are still coming down
I'm
from
tired.
all of that. If it's not mental energy of keeping all the things in your mind, and then physically, like the stress of having to organize and fucking travel.
Mm.
I did organize it, and
Yeah,
then
she
work
did.
stuff back. I mean, I'm already back with the high schoolers are here.
Right.
My brain
Yeah.
is
And then, you've got
done.
2 teenagers
Ah!
basically at the house and having, to organize and do stuff with them and do your work. I mean, there's no fucking one. I'm sorry.
As do you. I
As-
know.
When you hit a certain age, shit don't bounce back.
Ladies
No.
of a certain age,
Like,
we are.
Brain doesn't bounce back. Your fucking body definitely doesn't
No,
bounce
God
back.
help.
Do you know what I needed? I needed more. I needed like purpose today. I felt like I lacked purpose today because I've had so much stuff going on, and I've like
Mhm.
honestly sort of like this, like some renovation shit I've been doing. I was like, I rocked the fuck out of this last
Mhm.
week. I worked my
yeah.
ass off, and then I got to today, and I was like, I'd already had like a day of like pretty much restful stuff,
Mhm.
and so I got to today, and I was like, okay, well, I did that. I did the reading, resting, chilling day, and now
Do
I'm
it
just
again.
sitting here.
But you need more than one day.
I know, but I was like, my all of me was just like, must have goal, and I was
Good.
like, I had no goal left.
Set a good one. Like I need to watch all the first season of Dairy Girls. or
Dude, I
something.
would love to rewatch that. That was funny. I've been reading
Something.
I've been reading the Dublin Murder Squad series by Tana French. I'm on like the 3rd novel. My
Okay,
friend
I'm on
Vicky
that one.
gave me one of her novels a while back, and I was
Nice.
like, wow. I'd like it's one of those things I can just like go through.
Right.
It's
Do
like,
that. We'll spend the day like
I
reading
know, that's
and
what-
stuff. Yeah.
but yeah.
She
Yes.
sent me a picture of her book page because I taught the one Irish Gaelic word I learned
Oh.
or phrase I learned was "poke my hone." Means kiss my arse.
Pogue Mahone.
Poke my
And they
hone.
say it in a book.
And she goes,
Poke
"Look at
my
this."
I was
home.
like,
It's POGMOTHIN.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
like it shouldn't be
hone.
hone. It's,
Hone.
Okay.
it's like
This kind of sounds like poke my hole,
Yeah,
Poke my
kinda-
hole.
which is totally different.
poke my hole.
It's like pucker up, pucker up.
Pucker up, buttercup.
Kiss my arse.
Poke my hole.
Kiss my I like kiss my arse.
Kiss
better.
my
It is arse.
Well, on that note.
Yes.
Oh wait,
No, it is Pride Month. We were planning on recording this last month when it was like still technically kind of mid Pride Month, but I caught the shit and I wouldn't have been able to get through but maybe 10 minutes without coughing my brains
Yeah.
out. So
I had to cry.
It's fine.
well, and we're still hitting the end of Pride. We're gonna
And
hit just the
why?
very butt end of Pride, and Pride
Really?
isn't all year
It's a
long.
year
and
long.
yes,
Yeah, so-
absolutely.
Absolutely.
We've already wished you happy Pride, and
I have
there's
my pride shirt.
Yes,
my
you've
pride
got-
Jack
I've got
Daniels
my-
Jack
shirt.
Daniels
I'm
Pride.
repping for Green Pea Press in Huntsville right
That
now.
Green Pea
I'll have to
did it.
They
take
are
a-
awesome.
I'll have to take a photo of this. I bought this shirt last week because I was just in love with it, and they released it a while back. But it's a mama possum hugging a baby possum that has the trans flag colors on it, and it is a Protect Trans Youth shirt.
It is
which
an
I'm in
amazing
love
shirt,
with.
yeah.
I was like, I can't not get this, and I had to wear it today. So I'm really glad it showed up.
I'm the only one I'm rocking a moo. I'm sorry.
Love
It's
the movie. It's my
gorgeous.
favorite.
It's also Patrice's air went out, so she can rock whatever the fuck she wants. It's like whatever makes you comfortable, babe.
Oh, it did. I didn't know
Uh-huh.
that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
the air condition went out.
With the
Yes.
storm.
No.
Oh, before. Oh,
Just cause.
Yes, because
Just cause. Fuck.
Fuck.
Exactly. Frack.
So yes, Pride. It's Pride Month. I've talked about some like bad shit in Pride Month before. You know, we've done some Pride
Yeah.
episodes. We've done some murdery Pride episodes. We've done some bad shit. And there is a lot of bad shit out there. There's a lot of bad shit out there right now. There's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of bad Southern shit for the queer community, but there's also a lot of just bad USA and world
I don't
shit
want to.
for the
You
queer
know what?
community.
I don't. We always get the bad rep for everything, and you know, honestly, yes, we do deserve a lot of the. Yes, we do bring it on like that.
We's
but
in the southern
right
states.
now-
the
not us
southern
personally.
states, but I want to say, like, all over the U.S., it's not just us, y'all.
No, right
It
now
is
this is a
everybody.
unfortunate phenomenon
And
that's
it's not-
spreading. Yeah.
Yes. And I
And,
don't think it's. I think it's been there. It's
yes,
not
it's been
spreading.
there. It's just loud, you
Right.
know, and it's been
It's-
given a lot of like microphones in
And
the last 10
yes.
years.
I mean, what the fuck?
Yes, there is a lot of bad people shit. And
Right.
I mean, if you want to pass laws that hurt transgender kids, you're bad people. I'm so sorry. I'm not actually sorry.
No,
So
don't
that's a bad people
apologize.
thing to do. So,
Right.
you know, you're going to have to learn to deal with that if that's you. You know, a lot of people talk about the pride is a revolution, and pride started as a revolution. Its pride was a riot, but it's also a month of celebration. And
Right.
I don't like my brain is a naturally pessimistic brain. Like I tend to go to the bad stuff. You know, I'm like, everything is so shit. Just so, you know, it's like I can yell about this. Like because I feel like I'm in control of it if I can yell about it. But I don't celebrate stuff enough.
Yeah,
That's
you
true.
should celebrate.
Absolutely.
Pride across the South this month has had a lot of cool stuff to celebrate.
Yeah.
Disney did its gay days. Disney did its gay days right in the face of their governor.
DeSantis,
Yes.
fuck yourself.
And, you know, I'm conflicted about Disney because, you know,
Yeah.
it's not like it's doing everything that it could do. But you know what? It's pretty awesome that, you know, Gay Days is going down.
Yeah.
And we went, so me and my kids went to the Central Alabama Pride Parade right before, I guess, a couple of weeks ago. And it was like the first weekend of June, second weekend of June. And they like adore the Pride Parade. And, you know, I don't always give it like the credit that I should, because I didn't want to go this year. Like there were a couple things going on. I was just like, I'm just not feeling it. Like, but they were so excited about it. And we got there and they just really love going into this like atmosphere where everybody's celebrating everybody else and everybody's happy and everybody's screaming for you and everybody's screaming for them.
Right.
And, you know, so of course, like my younger kid makes a sign right before we leave that has the bi flag and it says, "Do you love Pedro Pascal?"
Who
And
does
it's
not?
attached the bi flag to both sides. So she literally walked the entire parade route holding this up to people and saying, "Do you love Pedro Pascal?" She said "bye" for Pedro Pascal was what her sign said. And she got so many fucking people just like screaming for her, trying to hug her. I was like, oh my God. So, you know, it's like they get the celebration of everything. And like when there's a lot of bad shit and you're in a safe place, that's when you got to party like louder. You got to love
Yeah.
louder. You got to party harder. You got to celebrate bigger. And that's what the community does during June.
Right.
So today I wanted to talk about somebody who was a southern celebration of the queer community in a tiny, hilarious gay package, Leslie Jordan.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
Because
Almost
nothing,
just cried.
Oh
nothing
my
makes me
God.
happier.
He is, oh yes.
I mean, like just saying his name makes you happy.
Oh my God.
Or and kind of sad. But here's the
Sad
thing: it's
and
been
happy.
he died last year, and I wouldn't have wanted to talk about it before now
yeah. too
because
soon.
it really hurt.
it did hurt.
Everybody
It hurt.
when he died, and it was really sad news. It was like a light went out when he passed
I'm
away.
tearing up a little
Oh,
bit,
me
for real.
too.
But you know, so at the time, and this was last fall, he was working on Call Me Cat with Mayim Bialik, and he was driving to the set and he crashed his car. And one of the things that there was all this, you know, of course, immediately there's all these, you know, odes to him going out, and everybody's just like memoriam and just how much they loved him. And you know, some of the things are like, was there drugs involved? Like, I'd wait for the
Oh my
autopsy, and I was
God,
like, why are
shut
they
the
doing this?
fuck up.
So they did
Everybody
this,
does
and
that.
it was a cardiac event that he had,
Yeah.
you know. And as I looked further into it, because you know, I loved Leslie Jordan, but I had never really looked that much into his, you know, personal life or his past. or anything
Chattanooga,
like that.
Tennessee.
Chattanooga,
I
Tennessee.
know that much.
He had been stone cold sober since 1996, and that was kind of why it was brought up in all of this.
Mhm.
Is like, oh, was he drinking again? Was he?
Mm.
No, he absolutely was not, you know. But it's a lot of what he's talked about in his comedy when he's doing like his personal stories.
Yeah.
He always talks about his recovery.
Right.
And so, you know, that's one of the things he's done. He's done a one-man show. He's
Mhm.
written plays.
He is a one-man
He
show.
is a walking one-man show. He did autobiographical plays. He's written books. I read one of them to talk today. He was in every show. He was in movies. I mean, so when I started looking at the stuff that Leslie was in, I was like, if you tried to watch everything that he's appeared in, it would take you months. I mean, like he started in 1986. His first role on TV was in He was in The Fall Guy.
Oh wow.
He was in Night Court, Midnight Caller, Murphy Brown.
Night Court.
He was in Pee Wee's Playhouse. He was in Perfect Strangers. Like all these, Lois and Clark, Hearts of Fire. He was in all these things, Star Trek. I mean, like it goes on and on and on. Dharma and Greg. I mean, like every single Ally McBeal, like you hit everything in the 80s and 90s and through the 2000s that was a popular television show. And Leslie Jordan was in it at one point or another.
The Star Trek Leslie Jordan.
No shit. I know. I was like, this
sounds amazing.
This is awesome. He's done fucking everything. You know, like you said, he was born in 1955. He was raised in Chattanooga, and he was just a Tennessee boy. And he's done articles, interviews with like Garden and Gun magazine and stuff. And one of the things he said in one of those was he was talking about when he was a kid and like the kind of atmosphere he had in Chattanooga when he was a kid. And he said there was a barbecue joint out in the country, and as kids, we were just feral, running around from the minute the sun came up. And we would go to this barbecue spot and we'd buy one Coke to share. And the owner would tell us to go, and we'd said, we're customers, we've got a Coke. And she'd say, go circle the parking lot 100 times. And if you do that, I'll give you a cheeseburger to get them out of the restaurant. And so we would circle and like count every time we got to the door. We'd count like 38, 39,
that was just a
40.
challenge.
And he said it would take us all day long, but we would get us a cheeseburger and then we'd run off to the creek and swim in our underpants. Like that's what Leslie Jordan's childhood was in Chattanooga.
Yeah.
He loved dolls when he was a kid. And the book that I read was the most recent memoir. He's done another one previous to this, but it's called How Y'all Doing? Misadventures and Mischief from Life Well Lived. And he tells this story about how the first time he ever was taken to a wedding, he was 3 years old. And his mom wasn't sure that he should go because he's 3 and he's very, precocious and he's curious and he's loud. And his dad was like, we need to take him to this thing. He needs to learn how to behave. And I want to show my boy off because some of my military friends are going to be there.
Oh, I didn't know it was military.
His dad was in the Army. And the wedding starts and his mom is sitting there with him and he's just like crawling on the pew, standing up, asking a billion questions, talking in his little fine suit. And finally, she starts to say, I'm going to take him outside. Like, until the ceremony's over, I've just got to take him outside. But as soon as she decides to do it, the doors swing open and they play Here Comes the Bride, and the bride starts walking down the aisle. And she said that when she told him this story, she said, he said, my mother says I froze like a pointer dog. I stood stock still and my eyes just were glued to this bride as she floated by in a cloud of white tulle. Because he was just like, absolutely fascinated by the pageantry, and he was just floored. I mean, it was like everything he talked about that whole year after he goes to this, and he's 3 years old, is about he starts playing this game called the Bright and Gloom because he's the bride and groom and he's always the bright, and he makes his girl cousin walk him around in the aisles of the house like the groom. He said I put an angel food cake pan on my head and put my mother's white terry cloth bathrobe on backwards for my bridal gown, and I was the vision of loveliness.
Oh my God.
So he goes through the year just obsessed with this bride and groom game. And then Christmas comes around and he's sitting on Santa's lap and he says, I want a bride doll. That's what I want for Christmas. I want a bride doll. Of course, his dad isn't into this idea. And he's like, I cannot, he's already out there.
Right.
We've seen this child. Like,
Yeah.
I can't get him a bride doll for Christmas. And Christmas Eve comes around and he goes to bed and tells his mama, Santa Claus is going to bring me a bride doll and I'm going to play wedding and brush her hair. And his mom marches out of his bedroom and says to his dad, you had better get that boy a bride doll for Christmas.
Yes, Mom. Yes.
And so she was like, I don't know if you want to deal with him tomorrow morning, but I'm not going to deal with this heartbroken child if there is no bride doll under our Christmas tree. And so he said, she went into the kitchen to start cooking the kitchen feast or the Christmas feast. And in a few minutes, she heard the front door shut. She said, in 1958, my career Army daddy scoured Chattanooga, Tennessee to find his 3-year-old son a bride doll.
Oh my gosh, I'm about to cry.
And the next morning, he had a life-sized 2 or 3-year-old bride doll wrapped in cellophane with a white dress and pearls sitting under the Christmas tree for him. And the whole chapter of his book was about this and talking about how much he thanked his daddy for getting him that bride doll. And
where did he find it?
I don't know.
God bless him.
Listen, Leslie Jordan.
One now.
Leslie Jordan tells the story first, saying that he had to do it in a freak snowstorm in Chattanooga, and later on he's like, "There was no freak snowstorm." But it's a really good story that way.
It's a really good story without the
I know it is.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe bride dolls were more common then, and I can picture those big box dolls.
I can too. They're really big ones, and
I
they
mean, I
used to
guess they
sell the
still make
angels
them,
on the
but-
top of the tree in those same size or same types of boxes with like the cardboard back and the cellophane box on the front. You know,
Yeah.
But
Those big,
mm-hmm.
life-size dolls.
And he stayed obsessed with dolls. Like he bought an American Girl doll for, I think he said Viola Davis's child or something.
Oh.
And he spent all day in the American Doll store, like trying to decide which one she should have. When he was little, he loved horses. His parents got him a pony. They named him Midnight and kept it in their backyard in Tennessee. And all his life, he loved horses. He actually started riding, not show horses. I can't remember, Tennessee Walkers maybe. He started riding horses again like shortly before he passed away because he loved horses his whole life and hadn't been able to do it for a while. But his daddy was a lieutenant colonel in the army, I think, and he died in a plane crash when Leslie was 11.
Wow. You know, you hear a lot about like my mama. Like he's always talking
He's
about
always
his
talking
mama.
about his mama.
Yeah,
Mhm.
always his
But
mama.
I knew nothing about his daddy.
And
It's-
he thought that his daddy was ashamed of him for a long time, he said. And his
Mhm.
mama practically slapped him when he told her that the first time because she's like, he was so proud of you.
Well,
He
I mean,
was
he
so
would have gone
proud
out
of you."
and bought him a bride doll
Yeah.
for Christmas.
Yeah.
If, like you would.
But you know, I mean, growing up in the South in the
Oh my God,
the
shit.
late 50s, early 60s. and
even now, I mean, shit.
Exactly. So, so when he's grown up, church is a huge part of his life. Growing up, he was Southern Baptist.
Not surprised.
Like any serious Southern Baptist child, he was baptized like 13, 14 times. Because every time the preacher says, if you got sin in your heart, you come down here this morning.
Right.
And
It's
he's
like the
like,
Price
oh my
is
God,
Right.
that's me. So like probably 14 times he said. And but he loved singing church hymns. Again, he loved, like, there's so much pageantry in especially evangelical churches. And it really spoke to him too. And there was a Pride Source article that was an interview about Leslie after he died. The author was talking about his experience, the author's experience being a gay boy growing up Southern Baptist in the South, and how traveling gospel groups would always come around.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I was gonna say for like, and
We
not
had
even
'em.
not even just for revival,
No,
but like for
singing.
if
Just
for a
a singing.
singing, just like on a given Sunday.
we just had singings. Like it wasn't just decoration
Yeah.
or homecoming.
It didn't
or
have to be a
revival.
special occasion. It's like there's all these families
Whenever
that
they
would
were
travel the
traveling.
South
Mhm.
in a tour bus, and they would come or whatever, and they would
Mhm.
come and they would sing. And he said that there was one group that stood out from the rest, and it was called the Happy Goodman family. And I've never heard of the Goodmans. Do you know these? Vestal Goodman.
Yes, I know. I know.
What?
But
He
I grew
talked
up
about
only
her.
45 minutes from Chattanooga.
I know. He talked about.
Oh, my mother, yes, could tell us stories about Vestal Goodman.
Because he talked about Vestal Goodman. This author was talking about
Yes,
how
I know.
he said she sang like she'd been sent from the heavens just to minister, he said, to the weary and the downtrodden, which pretty much was the gay community in the Southern Baptist Church at that time. But he said I kept on thinking Tammy Faye Baker because that's the most relatable big story
hold on a minute.
person.
I thought I had even more connection. She was born in Fife. She's from Fife.
Oh, wow.
She's from Fife.
Oh my God.
And I was like, wait, I know this name so well. Like, I know she's from
And it's
Fife.
an unusual name.
She's
Like
from
you would
Fife.
know it if you know it. Yeah.
So she's from Fife.
So Vestal Goodman, she would wear these
Mom would smack me if I didn't add that part.
She would wear these floor-length sparkling gowns, he said. And she had her
Lawrence
beehive on
Welk.
her head.
Yes.
And she always had a hanky and
oh my God.
always a big old grin.
Okay, so y'all, if any of you, just a side note here, ever travel through the South, find you a Goodwill place, a thrift shop, and go to the record bin
Mhm.
because you are going to find you
So much gospel music.
white gospel music, which is good, but the album covers
Unbelievable.
best.
So many matching powder blue suits.
So much high
Oh,
hair.
God, it's so much.
blue eyeshadow.
Yes, it's so
much
much.
rhinestones.
And-
It's worth it.
And that's what's funny. So the way that they kind of brought this up was that, Vestal Goodman, they said was like the diva queen of Southern gospel music. And they said, okay, so, and they kept on referring in this article to Southern Baptist sissies, all capital SBS, because there was a stage play and later on a movie called Southern Baptist Sissies that was done by Del Shores, and Leslie Jordan was in it. And it's about it's set in Texas, but it's about gay guys growing up in the church, in the Southern Baptist church. And so he said from one Southern Baptist sissy to another, you know, I always wanted to talk to Leslie Jordan more about Vestal Goodman if he knew her. And apparently Leslie Jordan was obsessed with her also, and said he never got to see her do a show, but he worshipped her. He said that the Goodman family was stuff he listened to like all through the years. And in the 70s, in Southern gay bars, there would usually be a drag queen doing Vestal Goodman. Because there's not a huge leap from Southern Baptist gospel diva to drag queen.
No.
From your mouth to God. Yeah.
And it was like she had all this, you know, it was so sparkly and so much, you know, and so they said that, like, you could see Vestal Goodman, you know, at any drag bar for a while in the South.
That's amazing.
And Leslie Jordan talked about how drag queens actually brought him out of the closet. So when he was in Chattanooga, you know, I think he came out to his friends when he was like 14 years old. But he also started doing drugs around the same time. Like, because he said you kind of have to do that if you're going to be out in the South in the, you know, 60s.
Right.
So, but in Chattanooga, there was a doctor, a rich doctor, he said lived on the mountain or something, who hosts drag parties. And there was only one gay bar in Chattanooga. And Leslie was too young at the time to get in. So he would go to this doctor's drag parties, and all the kids who were underage would go to these drag parties. And one time, he stole his neighbor's dress out of her closet. She had like a hippie flowery smock dress that he stole so that he could go do drag at this doctor's party. And they started calling him Miss Baby Wipes was his drag name.
Oh my God.
He's exactly the same height as Dolly Parton. In case you didn't know that, he is just the exact same height as Dolly Parton. He has done Dolly Parton.
I was going to say, Dolly just has on like 10-inch heels.
Yes, she does.
She is so small.
More than 6.
But Leslie Jordan called himself a messy queen. And he said, but he loved this experience so much that he went to Atlanta because he was going to make his living doing drag. At 17 years old, it was 1973, I guess. He found the bar in Atlanta that was called the Sweet Gum Head, which was the best known drag show club in Atlanta in the 70s. And he said that in the South, in Tennessee, he'd only seen what they called booger drag, which they talk about, I think, on Drag Race a little bit. But booger drag is like the messy drag. It's like most of the people that he had seen would only do Judy Garland.
What is messy drag, first of all? Because I don't know.
It's not very... It's not polished, so like the clothes don't fit you very well. The makeup isn't particularly well done. The wigs may not be very well done. And I mean, you might see it more in the Deep South at that time, partially because there's no way for people to learn. I've seen a bit of messy drag.
That's like one of the only ones you've seen, right? That was kind of messy drag.
But it was still fun. There was some better. There was a range there.
There was a range.
There was a range, but I had seen a little booger drag there. It's kind of like
starting out too. I'm not going to speak for the drag queen
and also,
community, but
yes, I mean, you've got to learn.
That's a lot of fucking money to do drag.
No shit.
I mean,
you have you've got to find your style. You've got to find your style.
Finding your voice.
And the fucking makeup is expensive.
And one of the amazing things about like the drag community, as catty as people can be about each other, it seems like most of the time, if you recognize that somebody's just starting out and trying, they're gonna get support. You know, so it's special that way. You know, you may be kind of shitty about it sometimes, but like you're gonna give people some support,
right?
But he eventually quit doing drag in Atlanta because he said he just could not compete. He said there was amazing innovation in the drag scene in Atlanta in the 1970s, and he was like, I could not stand up to that.
Oh, that's so weird because I mean, I want to see him in drag. I mean,
it's beautiful.
Would he not be just amazing?
And he has been. You should see everybody listening to this should see him in drag because he's gorgeous and he's awesome and hilarious. Watch Sordid Lives. That is something that you absolutely have to do.
That's why you've been talking about Sordid Lives.
I rewatched Sordid Lives because in Sordid Lives, he's a character called Brother Boy. It's a story of a Texas family who is their matriarch has died, And it was also a play before it was a movie, I think, and it's another Del Shores. But he plays a guy named Brother Boy who has been institutionalized for 20 years for being a gay man who cross-dresses. And he is gold. And I never had heard of this movie. Box fan Chad told me about this movie years ago. And I watched it. Courtney and I both watched it with him. But I had to rewatch it after I started reading up more about Leslie Jordan again. And it just like, oh my God, you've got to watch it. He channels the ghost of Tammy Wynette. And so he spends the entire movie like being Tammy Wynette.
My God.
It's amazing. He was in Atlanta. He quit doing drag, but he's doing everything else. He's doing meth. He's doing black beauties all the time. Like he's high all the time. And so his folks bring him home to Tennessee because he's still fairly young, and he goes to college for a while. He studies journalism and theater, and he works. And he kind of goes back to his love of horses. There's a farm south of where he's from called Old Mill Farm, and one of the ladies who runs it is named Carrie Latimer Robinson, and he said he was working at the farm, and he said it was mid-morning, and he said Miss Latimer Robinson had already made a couple trips to the liquor closet, as they called the bar up in the big house, which I think we need to sign to put in front of our kitchen down here and call it the liquor closet.
It literally is a closet.
It is the liquor closet. But she was kind of crazy, and she came to him in the stables with 2 cats under her arms, and she said, "These cats are my favorite cats, but they're inbred and they're very, very anxious. So I need someone to swing them." And she brings two Bloomingdale's bags, and she sticks one cat in one bag and the other cat in the other and swings them. She's like I'm doing. And then she just hands him the bags and like walks off, and he's like calling his boss like, what the fuck? Like this woman wanted him to swing her cats to calm them for the afternoon.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was his fun experience when he was working at a horse farm in Tennessee. So he enjoyed working there. He enjoyed the learning and everything at the college, but he didn't really want to stay in Tennessee. So in 1982, he said, I had $1,200 sewn into my underpants by my mother, and I arrived in LA and found West Hollywood. So he got to West Hollywood 1 year after the CDC started documenting AIDS cases. And he really, he went from a place where he had no community in Tennessee to Atlanta, where they had a community that had to be very insular in a way because there was a lot of negativity outside, and then went to LA, where they had a more established community, but everyone is dying. So he signed up for Project Angel Food, which was bringing food dinners to people who were shut in with the disease. And he got fired because the food was always cold, because he would sit there and he would talk for hours with whoever he had brought it to. As a volunteer, he got fired.
Oh,
but he joined Project Nightlight, which is people who had gone into hospice with AIDS. Their families and friends have left them, and they created this organization so that nobody would ever be alone in hospice ever, unless they wanted to be alone. So it was like right up his alley, and he would sit and just be with people and sit with people while they're in hospice, including his friends. He lost, like everyone in the gay community in those days, he lost so many people, and he really, really appreciated that sense of community that they all had, to build each other up and to help each other. So meanwhile, he's doing all this, and he's auditioning for roles in LA, and he starts to get them, and he starts becoming a familiar face. All those shows that I listed at the beginning, he made friends just by being Leslie Jordan.
Right.
It's funny, on All Recipes of all places, the site, the website, All Recipes, they apparently have a podcast called The Homemade Pie, or maybe they did and don't anymore. I don't know. But he was interviewed on their podcast, and he tells a story that he said Linda Bloodworth Thompson and her husband Harry got a lot of money for doing Designing Women.
Designing Women. I was just going to say, I know who that is.
And so her husband Harry bought some airplanes, and he had never been on a private jet flight before anything, but Leslie had just gotten hired to do Hearts of Fire with John Ritter, and this was 92, 93 probably, and they were doing publicity, so every time they had to do a publicity trip, they would put him on this private jet and send them. So the first time he gets on this private jet, he's like, well, we're going to New York. And he said, well, that's a long trip. So I fried a whole chicken, and I made some potato salad, and I had big mason jars of sweet tea.
God bless.
And he said he got on the plane, and they all laughed at him because they had this beautifully catered Southern meal. But he's just like, well, We had fried chicken and potato salad and sweet tea.
Oh my god, I would have ate that first.
Oh my
'cause you know
God,
it
I
was
know.
fucking
Did
amazing.
they eat it? I
Oh,
bet it was good.
absolutely. They ate the
Okay.
shit out of it. And the lady actually listed his recipe for iced tea. You know, it is like,
Oh,
and
on
she's like,
all
you've got on all
recipes, yeah.
recipes. She's like, you've got to put it in a giant mason jar.
Mhm.
He said he makes it so sweet that his grandmother used to say he was going to get the sugars from it.
Yep, you get the sugar. Mm-hmm.
But not long after that, stuff kind of shifted for him. So in 1996, he was arrested. He doesn't like to say what he was arrested for. It had something to do with alcohol. And there was an article on ET Online because, of course, you know, he gets arrested, but it can't just be a regular guy's getting arrested. He gets arrested, and his lawyer tells him to ask for the homo tank.
Oh.
Ask for the gay section because he said you won't survive in the main section. And they didn't put him in the homo tank.
Oh,
But
no.
So this
they
is in
put him-
LA?
They put him, yeah, they
Okay.
put him in the softy tank, they said. And he was supposed to stay for 120 days, but they let him out after 12. And they said, we need a bed for Robert Downey Jr.
Oh.
He's downstairs.
Oh my god.
And we're going to give him your bed. So he
Well, that's
got
not
out of jail.
surprising.
He said he never got to talk to Robert Downey Jr., but he did share a bunk with him technically.
Oh my
because
God.
it was the same bunk in the same
I
cell.
remember that. Like he was like down bad, or at least they like
Yeah.
went after
Robert Downey Jr.
him.
was
Yeah.
yeah.
Robert Downey Jr. went through a
Partying.
lot of rehab, a
Mhm.
lot of different times. But so Leslie went into recovery after that, and that was the wake up call that he really needed. And he has been clean and sober ever since 1996. And when he was in recovery,
No matter how many martinis he had on Will and Grace.
they were not. Yes, exactly. When he was in recovery, he was in-
Beverly Leslie.
I know Beverly Leslie's the best. So he met. He said his spiritual advisor in recovery was a man named Don Norman. He was a gay black man, a gay black man. And he said that like recovery is about so much more than just learning to not drink. It's about learning to live without drugs or alcohol. It's about learning to live with yourself.
Right.
One of the things he learned about from Don was how to work through shame, like internal homophobia. Even at this point in his life, somebody as out and overt as Leslie Jordan was still dealing with internal homophobia. Because, you know,
I mean, growing up Southern Baptist
and even just in the U.S.
Mhm.
I
in
mean,
the U.S. Yeah.
so Don had him call him at 8 a.m. or 8:10 or 10 to 8 or whatever every day and list 4 fears that he had. He did it for months and he ended up with a list of 80 fears. And then Don said, okay, everything that you're dealing with is fear-based. And you need to write out where each fear comes from and then write out which fears are real and which are imaginary. And Leslie's like, I don't know the difference between real and imaginary. And he says, well, if a bear is chasing you, then it's real.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's not, if there's something, if this is not going to kill you,
Right.
then this isn't imagined. This is
If
not
you're worried
something
about a
needs
bear
to
chasing
control
you
your
one day
life.
in the future, then
That's
that
not
is
real.
imaginary.
Exactly. So, you know, he starts to list his fears and like realizes he's still afraid that heterosexual men are going to be mean to him. He's still afraid that he's going to get AIDS. He's still, you know, and he lists and lists and lists 80, 90 things. And I honestly, I've done this before. I wasn't in AA, but I've done this before and everybody should fucking do it because
Oh, yeah.
it's shocking the number of things that you don't do in your life because you're afraid of something you won't admit you're afraid of.
Yep.
He says a lot of how he became after this experience wasn't just happenstance, that he worked his ass off to become the Leslie Jordan that we all know.
Mhm.
And
Oh, you have to be. I mean,
yes, and he was like, you know, he said he was born different, you know, he's born special,
mhm.
but being like he is still took a lot of work.
Oh, I can imagine.
And he got more shows over the time. You know, he stays in LA, he's sober, he gets more shows. Will and Grace launched in 1998.
Mhm.
His first role as Beverly Leslie that was introduced in 2001. I didn't realize it was on for a couple of years before. It was
Yeah.
like the 3rd season
Yeah,
before
I
Beverly
did.
Leslie came on.
I've watched it several times.
and he
so.
was only in 13 episodes, but it was like
yeah.
it was
He stole,
iconic.
he stole the show.
He won an Emmy
was
for
only
it.
in
Yeah,
13?
he was only in
Seems like
13
so much.
episodes. And you know what?
God,
When Randy first started
I love
seeing
Megan Mullally and
Oncologist,
him
I
too.
know.
Jeez.
Randy's first oncologist was this wee little white-haired man who was very hyper and adorable. And I started calling him Beverly Leslie. I called him Dr. Leslie the entire time he saw Randy as an oncologist. And I had no idea what his actual name was. It was like the only thing I could think of when I saw him. The 2000s come around. Leslie's doing more and more of his own stuff. He does a stage show called Hysterical Blindness and Other Southern Tragedies that plague my life thus far. He is cast in 2018 in a comedy series called The Cool Kids, which I haven't watched. And he's talking to a
I
publicist
watch that.
in the build up to that. And it's got Martin Mull and Vicki Lawrence, I think, and David Allen Greer, maybe. And he says something funny to this publicist, and she's like, "You should post that." And he's like, "What does that mean?"
Oh, here we go.
And
Social media.
He doesn't like
rise.
technology, and she's just like, "Oh, you need to get on Instagram." He's like, "I can't do it," and she's like, "I'll have some girls walk you through it." So she has a couple staff members come and set him up on Instagram, and in a couple of days,
Oh my God.
he has 4,000 followers,
Classic.
and before long, he has 80,000 followers, and he's really, really proud of himself. And they're like, "Oh, that's not that much," and he's like, "What the hell?" And then COVID hits. And that All Recipes
made
podcast
my life so happy. Leslie
I
Jordan
know
did
he
in
was
COVID.
everything we needed during COVID. He said
Absolutely.
so. He was in Tennessee during the pandemic. As
went
any of
home.
us know who watched him do
He
this,
was in
he went home to
Chattanooga.
be with Mama and the twins.
Yep.
The twins are 22 months younger than him. His two little sisters,
Mhm.
and so
Mhm.
he's renting this place not far from where they are, and he was bored. And he started posting 2 videos a
my
day on
gosh.
Instagram.
And they were like very candid. Like he would be
Oh,
laying
yeah.
in bed and just
Yep.
have his face in it and he'd be like, "Okay, listen, y'all."
He was,
I know.
"What are y'all doing? It's time for Pillow Talk with
Oh
Leslie
my
Jordan."
gosh.
And so he said I would just
Happiness.
get there and talk
Mhm.
about what I was doing. And he said a friend called me from California and said, "Honey, you've gone viral."
Mhm.
And Leslie said, "I don't have COVID." And he said, "No, you've gone viral." And he said, "No, I'm safe at home." And he said, "No, internet viral." And it took him that long to figure out what had happened. And by the time of his death, Leslie had 11 million followers between
Yes.
Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. He had 4 million on Instagram during COVID because you just got to watch
Oh, yeah.
him in his house be
Oh
himself.
my gosh.
Mhm.
It was
And
so
it was
good.
like the
So good.
best thing in COVID to get on
So
Instagram and like click on something, and he says, "Well, shit, how y'all doing?"
Mhm.
And hello, fellow hunker downers. It was like he was the best. And on Sunday nights, he would do Sunday hymns, and he would have people come and do hymns with him.
Mhm.
And he actually recorded a gospel album in 2021 called "Company's Coming," where he sings hymns with Eddie Vedder,
Yeah.
Brandy Carlisle. Eddie Vedder was a good friend of his in the
Mhm.
end. Dolly Parton, Chris Stapleton, Ashley McBride. And that got him an appearance at the Grand Ole Opry, which he did in 2021, I think. His Instagram was just so honest and funny and comforting and shameless that it was
Mhm.
just like what
It was joy.
it was the only thing we needed. It was like the opposite of just all the horrible stuff, you know?
Mhm.
And in those last 25 years of Leslie Jordan's life, he was 100% comfortable in his own skin. And if pride is a revolution, then there's revolution in that and celebration in that. And he was celebration in a wee gay little pinata of a package. And one of his shows used to end with this quote: "Happiness is a choice. Happiness is a habit. And it's something that you have to work at. It doesn't just happen." He said, "I was born with a huge capacity for happiness. And I thank God for that, because I think people born with a better capacity, there are some people that are just born with a better capacity to be happy than some other people." So as Pride Month ends, I would just say, don't be ashamed. Be shameless. Be Leslie Jordan. Be a celebration of a human being. And that's really, I mean, you can be that if you are a little Tennessee kid running in the creek in your underwear. And you can be that if you're a Hollywood superstar, or if you fail at everything. If you think you fail at everything that you do, you're wrong, number one. And you can sit down and look at yourself as like a wonderful creature. And I think that's just like the message of him and his entire life in Pride Month is just be a celebration of who you are, because that's worth it. And that is my story. Happy Pride.
Happy Pride.
Loved it. I'm crying, y'all.
I know, me too. It's hard not to cry when you talk about him now. But y'all, if you want to
Much love
celebrate,
the
if
great
you want to
beyond,
celebrate
Leslie Jordan, wherever your
just
soul is
get
partying
on.
right now.
Yes, get on his Insta, y'all. Get on his Insta. All his stuff is still out there. Just watch him and just enjoy it, because that's what his, like, you know, his soul is calling for you to do. And watch fucking Sordid Lives. It's so amazing.
Do it.
Do it. Well,
Thank
thanks
you,
y'all so
guys.
much. Fantastic, Marlea.
Happy Pride.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.
The trumpets of the Lord shall sound, and time shall be no more. And and the morning breaks eternal, bright and fair. When the saved diverse shall gather over on the other shore, when the roll is called up yonder, I'll be there. Been baptized 13 times just to make sure